So our next speaker will be Lukas Kölbl, working for Accenture as managing director in AI and data. And I'm pretty sure he will introduce himself in a very spectacular way. So applause to him.
Super, thanks a lot for being here, and I like the way to push the expectation up. So super cool.
And now I can't even turn this on.
So let's wait for the technique.
What is yours? Lukas slides.
Lukas.
Perfect, thanks a lot. So as mentioned, my name is Lukas Kölbl. I'm from Accenture. Does someone know Accenture? Quick question. Couple of guys. Okay, we are the largest consulting company globally, so 800,000 people, where we are focusing on more or less everything which has to do with technology. And of course, a core component is AI and data. Me personally, I'm leading the data science practice in the DACH region, so Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. And on the second part, I'm also responsible for all the financial service engagements within the ISG region, so Austria, Switzerland, Germany, as well as now Central Eastern Europe. I think it's quite crucial that we're talking not only about GenAI and what cool use cases are out there, right? I mean, many companies are doing AI since a couple of years, probably more, probably less. At the end, the new GenAI hype popped up a couple of years back, and now the new wave of agentic AI is coming, or already here. And the question always is, use cases building is one thing, doing PoCs, doing pilots, things like that. But on the other hand, also, what is the impact on the P&L? So when I have to spend €1, how much I'm getting out? And I think this question is quite heterogeneous answered currently, from getting nothing out to a bit to very successful stories. And today we want to focus a bit on that. But beforehand, quick overview. I think since we're not well known, we are doing everything in the data and AI space, from data strategy, data platform, and of course where I'm coming from, data science. In Austria, we're having roughly 100 people just doing data and AI, plus of course a couple of other folks, so we're around 150 at the end. In the DACH region, 1,000. And then if you also count the Central East Europe part, plus 3,000 at the end. So we are seeing a lot across industry. That's also very important. And today we focus on my personal topic, financial service, what we are seeing here, and also what the GenAI hype is bringing. I mean, when we're thinking back a couple of years when I started my professional career after the university, I was in the first wave of AI, right? I mean, IBM Watson was a huge buzzword. At the end, everyone claimed that, we will get unemployed because AI is taking over. What we have learned is that it's a bit more, right? Just doing a POC, uploading data to an API and then getting results out of it is maybe not the holy grail. So we learned that we have to scale, meaning bringing more use cases into production and bringing also value at the end to the business department or to our end clients. After that, the second wave occurred, and it started, 3 years back already, where fascinatingly the same stuff occurred. So we're starting with POCs, right? We're starting with use cases, small portion. We're starting with MVPs. And now again, after 3 years, we're thinking about, okay, how to scale, how to bring it really in an enterprise environment, and how bringing the value out of it. And fascinatingly, when we think about different industries, we see different maturity. And as mentioned before, I'm focusing on banks and insurances mainly, which in a certain sense are pure data, right? I mean, what is a bank? It's data plus buildings at the end, nothing more. Nevertheless, when we think about AI maturity, they are not the front runners, surprisingly, I would say, because they spend a lot of money into data. When you think from a regulatory perspective, when you think about risk departments, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, when you think about how to scale a service center at a bank, how to bring the latest chatbot into a mobile app, here we see huge gaps compared to other industries. Nevertheless, that's the left side. When we look on the right side, the productivity improvements, here they are again the front runners, due to the fact that they are interacting with people, right? They're getting a lot of documents, they're getting a lot of inputs, they have to do a lot of insights in order to be fast and efficient in a certain sense. And of course, you're getting the slides afterwards, so that's also clear. So what we have learned from Accenture, and this slide is roughly 1 year old, where we made a survey about 1,800 GenAI projects that we have done worldwide. And also, as you can see, FS is quite ahead on the left side. We see different challenges that are on the market. And surprisingly, it's the same challenges that we have seen a couple of years back. But let us start with the top solution areas. I mean, that's also quite clear. We would see knowledge management, right? What we are doing the whole day, we are searching for different information on our computer, on SharePoints, things like that. So that's quite common. The second piece is software development, also a huge area when it comes to AI and also GenAI at the end. And we will talk about that also later on. And for me, also one core component is contact center. So exchanging with people, getting the right information at the right point to the right people. And having said that, when we think about use cases that mentioned before, what is the missing link? And this is also a huge request from our clients nowadays when they started with PoCs. Small portion, you upload probably something to Microsoft Copilot, play a bit around, and you're getting the first results out of it. And this is, don't understand me wrong, super cool and really fast. But nevertheless, when you think about how to bring it to a process so that we're getting out the value, that's a huge difference. And if you ever have worked at a large corporate, it's really hell, to be honest. You have to change everything more or less. And this is exactly where we are coming from and where we are working on a day-by-day basis. So, how can we get rid of it? And this is, I would say, the one-on-one when you think about how to introduce GenAI in an efficient way and how to scale. And this is not a house, to be honest. It looks like a house, but it's not a house, because at a house, what is very important, the fundament. And here the fundament is technology. So this is not crucial at the end. It's an, I don't know how to call it, but you have to read it from top down at the end. I think important is strategy. So what do you really want to achieve from a business perspective? And the main failure that I'm seeing at companies is that they are not thinking about what is the strategy, what is the business perspective that we want to achieve, to grow, to reduce costs. What typically many companies are doing is they're collecting use cases. They're going from department to department and saying, do you have a use case? And then we're getting an Excel list with 100 use cases. And at the end, we're just random drawing some kind of use cases out of it, which are not bringing any kind of value. And this is market standard, to be honest, which is quite surprising, I would say, due to the fact that this is a very important topic nowadays on the market. So what we are suggesting, and what is also a lessons learned for this audience here, and I think that's quite cool of getting something out. If you have a strategy, please stick to that. If you're seeing that we want to reduce costs, maybe it's not the best way to search in departments where it's not related to it. If you want to grow somewhere, maybe we have to go into departments which are responsible for it, and so on and so forth. Because then you're having some kind of guidance and you cut down all the use cases which are maybe then not so high. And based on that, you identify departments, processes even more important, which you have to look at it. And there is the next thing, which is quite important. Don't look on use cases and find some process where it applies. Look on a process from an end-to-end perspective and reshuffle them, rebuild it, and so on and so forth. Which is not the easiest task, because when you think about departments, when you think about organization, when you think about C-levels and corresponding ownership, that's not an easy challenge, easy task at a large corporate. But that is where the money is, and I think that's the important part. So based on that, you're having the process use case, and you can do all the funny things, governance, people, risk, and technology. And technology is really the end, right? It's not the first step, because typically we're thinking about which cloud I should use, which model I should use. I mean, that's not crucial. Of course, it's important somewhere, somehow, but at the end, if you use this or that model, I mean, for 80-90% of the business problems, it's not super relevant. The models are good enough for many tasks that we have to deal with. So, when we think about reshuffling processes, and let's assume we're having something, a use case in the IT, right? Software development lifecycle. GenAI has a huge impact here. When we think about reshuffling processes, also about which kind of process step can we reduce at the end or mitigate. So here we're having also a study from our side where we're saying that from a development perspective, we're having on the left side the 100%, roughly 30% are impacted by AI, meaning replaced, also automation on one hand, but on the other hand also augmentation, a copilot. I mean, we have heard some cool stories beforehand. And at the end, I think also quite a nice story from a C-level who mentioned we introduced Microsoft Copilot in our company, and therefore we assumed that everyone is more efficient, so at the end 30 minutes per day. Let's assume that. What turned out is that, okay, probably they are a bit faster, but nevertheless there is no impact on P&L. Because what can you do? I mean, you cannot cut down 30 minutes per day from an FTE, that's impossible. So how to overcome with that? And a fun story, one colleague mentioned, yeah, those 30 minutes are nevertheless spent on a coffee break, right? I mean, people use the free time for doing an exchange, and therefore there is no impact at all. So we're just having the costs for license, but at the end, there is no impact, nowhere. You cannot measure it. And I think that's the crucial part. From a theoretical perspective, on the left side, and I think it's not so easy to read, we're also having here an example of 100 FTEs from an IT department and how they're transforming in a new way in the future. What the future is, I mean, that's up for discussion, right? It's not tomorrow, but I would say in the next 5 to 10 years. And from our research, we have concluded that roughly 20%, so 20 FTE, can be reused for other activities. But again, coming to the example before, if it's just 30 minutes for each employee, I mean, you cannot do that. And now the question arises, of course, how can you deal with it? And how can you shape your organization in the way that it's then fitting better? At the end, what you can achieve are two different components, right? I mean, you're having the same capacity, the same people, where you can get more output out of it. I mean, we are more efficient. And I guess everyone has used some kind of Copilot already. So Google Translate, I mean, we already have that since, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. You're more efficient. You're having the same time, 8 hours, but you're having an output of, I don't know, 8.5, 9 hours, for instance. So you're more productive. On the other hand, the other way around, you can say, okay, you're having the same scope, but less capacity. So you're reducing people because you're not needing it, you're going to automation, and so on and so forth. And I think at the end, the market is going in both directions, right? We want both. We want less people, but more productive. Another question arises, how can we achieve that? And I think that's also a core question for all of us in the round. I mean, we are data scientists. We want to think about how can we really bring an impact on our P&L, and here with an example when it comes to cost reduction. And I think it's quite obvious because we know that from other activities, from other kind of technologies. So on one hand, interdisciplinary roles and pooling approaches. What does it mean? Reshuffling the whole organization to merge different teams, for instance. So let's assume half an hour for each FTE. Let's bring many together. Then we have one FTE at the end, which we can reuse for other activities. And I think there is so much work in each corporate that we will use, will need those kind of capacity. Or we are saying, at the end we've augmented all the stuff, and the remaining 20%, which we cannot automate, I mean, let's outsource it because it's not fun, right? Also something we can do. And I think that's also core, I mean, when we think about the demographic change, I mean, people are getting older. So we will replace probably them with junior people who are then accelerated with co-pilots and things like that to be on the same level. And that's at the end is my message for today. Please do not focus on models, on data science, on use cases. Think about, one hand, what are the processes which are doing an impact? And second, how then really bring it to the organization? Because measuring a use case, I mean, it's not the super fun part, but no one is doing it. I do not know any AI use case which was not a success, because we shaped it then a bit like that, till it was an success. So that's really a crucial point of view from my perspective. Lastly, I mean, we are recruiting, right? We are searching people, not only in Austria, but also in Germany and Switzerland. So if you need a job, please apply here. You can see my LinkedIn profile. I have here the jobs. We are really searching massive people because the market is really, outperforming currently. And happy to clarify a couple of questions now. Thank you.